Hello, welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm joined with a very special guest. I have made a video about this person in the past as he holds triple citizenship and he holds some of the greatest passports and the strongest passports in the entire world. Today I'm joined with Alex. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, what's up, David? Thanks for having me on, man. Excited to be on this.
Yeah, perfect. So for anyone who doesn't know, basically, I was sent a link to a Reddit page months ago by a friend of mine, and I found your post on it, and it was basically talking about you having United States, Japanese, and German citizenship. I guess just as a starting point, because that is a crazy combination, right? I think especially with the Japanese passport. How does someone so as young as you get those three passports?
Yeah, man. So yeah, I'm very lucky that I have a U.S., Japan, and German passport and citizenships. But I guess my story, it's a little weird. So I'll start with this. I was born and raised in San Antonio, Texas, in the U.S. So that's how I got my U.S. passport. My mom is from Japan, and so that's where I guess my Japanese roots come from. That citizenship is a little, I guess, different because I know a lot of people believe there's a rule that when you turn 22, you have to choose either a Japanese nationality or your foreign nationality. That's not necessarily true, and I learned that when I was trying to travel to Japan during COVID and the borders were shut. I learned that the law actually reads that you have to endeavor into getting rid of your foreign nationality. So I guess if Japan were ever to ask me, I would say, hey, I'm looking into getting rid of my U.S. or in this case, my German citizenship too. But endeavor is the key verb there. And then with Germany, so Germany, I am eligible through Article 116, Paragraph 2. That's a law that reads that along the lines of if you or you're the direct descendant of somebody who lost their citizenship during World War II due to religious or political reasons. So in my case, I'm Jewish. My grandma was Jewish. She was born in Munich, left when she was 14 years old. She forcibly gave up her citizenship when she left. I learned that there was a law that got amended that made me specifically eligible for that role. And I learned during COVID too, when I was kind of just researching my family history. Because I always felt there was a way I could get an EU citizenship that I was eligible for that. So that's kind of how I got all three of those.
But I mean, obviously that sounds very logical to me. Like you've got dissent, you go for it, perfect. But not everyone, especially not everyone as young as you, as young as me, is thinking, okay, I can get this passport here and I'm going to actually do it. You know, they're like, okay, I can get it, that's cool, but then they don't actually ever go through with it. What was the incentive for you? Did you want to maximize your access to countries? Did you just want to get back to your ancestral roots? What was it that made you actually go forward with getting all these passports?
Okay, yeah, for sure, man. I guess my main motivation in getting, so I guess at one point I just had the U.S. right right after I graduated college, and I found out I was eligible for the German citizenship. Well, I guess my number one reason for getting both of these is about my roots. Like I feel like each passport represents, either my grandma and my dad's side of the family story, or with Japanese, my mom's side of her story, and her, pursuit of coming from Japan to America. But I guess with Germany, I think having an EU passport, I got to study abroad in college. I really enjoy what I'm doing now in the U.S. I don't think I plan on moving anytime soon. But at one point, I always tell myself, hey, I would save up enough money and give me the flexibility to get my master's in the EU, just because I know it's cheaper than as a citizen. It's in some cases free. Just having that power to do that was, I guess, my main maybe benefit of getting that passport. But at the end of the day, it's mostly about the roots and my cultural background. And then with Japan, same thing. I touched on it at the beginning of this podcast, but it helped me get to Japan when the borders were closed, so I can go see my cousin get married. And yeah, so I guess those are some of the motivations behind holding those passports. And it is a process, like trying to find all the information and with proving that you are a citizen. And it's with Germany, it was like nearly a 2-year wait to finally get approved, but 100% worth it. Something I really wanted to do and was very motivated to do so.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, an EU passport certainly does go benefit. Is certainly very beneficial. I know that whenever I go traveling to Europe and I get through the border an hour earlier than all of my friends who have British passports, American passports, passports like that, I get through the border quicker than them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I guess just as a next part, because obviously you're hearing all this stuff about, okay, so you wanted to go back to your cultural roots and everything. I'm a dual citizen myself. I'm not triple like you, but I'm a dual citizen. And a weird thing that I have is, having grown up in multiple countries. I also lived for a while in the US, in Tampa, Florida, but I didn't naturalize there. But I don't feel like I really belong in any country. I always feel like a foreigner everywhere I go. What is your experience in all these countries you go to where you are a citizen, but you still technically are a foreigner because you haven't grown up there?
Oh yeah. So I guess in my case, I born and raised in the U.S., so I do identify as an American. And then when I do visit another country, I feel like a foreigner. I mean, I'll say this, like, people are sometimes surprised when I'm like, when I was in Europe this past summer, people were surprised when I pulled out my German passport, and they were like, "How are you German?" But it's like no hard feelings. It's more of a shocking story because I guess I don't look the part, and I don't speak those languages, so I don't sound the part either. But I guess nothing negative, just definitely feel like a foreigner. But all the people are just, they're more about curious about the story about, and then I explain everything about how I have the right to these, but and also how I'm proud of these, and I know that it's a privilege to hold on to these other passports.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, it's going to provide. I mean, I'm not going to. If you don't want to get into that, that's fine. But it's going to provide you, if you have, or your future children or what have you, if you are planning, with such an amazing opportunity, right? Because
Oh
they
yeah,
can live in the United States or something, but then if they want to go to Germany for college where it is free, then they can do that as a citizen. Or they want to go to, I don't know, Okinawa, where it's 20 degrees all year round, that they can do all
yeah.
of that. So I think for the long run, it's also super great investment,
I
especially for
do.
family.
Sure, that's, I guess, another motivation. I knew this is, these are passed down by blood. I can't pronounce the word. I think you know what I'm talking about when citizens are passed down by blood. Yeah, this will be my
Yeah,
family.
yeah.
I mean, forever, unless, and I guess it's me or somebody else moves to a completely different country. You have to give everything up, but yeah, this will be passed on forever to my kids and their kids. That's something that was also a motivating factor of getting this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you did touch upon it that you don't really speak their language. Have you studied German and Japanese? Do you know any level of either languages, or are you just a native English speaker?
I mean, for the most part, just a native English speaker. With Japanese, my mom would speak some to me growing up. I never really, I guess, caught on. And then with German, so it was about in 2020, right in the summer of 2020, or about August 2020, I found out I was eligible for this. Combine that with, I was jobless, it was COVID, so I was also bored. Um, I started studying German a good amount, whether it's Duolingo or taking a class an in-person class. So I've been picking that up a little just to give me a little bit of kind of flexibility if I ever plan to move to Germany, or just anytime I do visit Europe. I know German's a pretty common spoken language throughout that continent. So, um, but unfortunately, I can't say I am bilingual or anything. So,
Okay, well, first of all, it's never too late. But second of all, I was literally just in Europe on the mainland, Germany as well. And I think you'll be fine with English. Like, I haven't met any single person in Europe who goes, "Oh, sorry, mate, don't speak English." The only German or only Slovenian or what have you. So everyone speaks English in Europe now, even in Eastern Europe, where it's probably not as popular as because of their history and everything.
I like
But
the idea that it lets me skip the line at the airport. I like the idea that it reminds me of a grandma and my mom. And I like the idea of knowing that if something were to happen, I'd be very fortunate enough to have the flexibility to come to Europe, to come to Japan and, work there, like be a student there. So I guess my motivations for these passport is the reasons why you should be motivated to have a passport. Yeah.
okay. And you mentioned that you went to Japan during when it was locked down and when the borders were shut. for your cousin's wedding. Have you ever gone to Germany or any country in Europe before?
I mean, yeah. So I studied abroad in the spring of 2019 in Milan, Italy. The main reason why I went there actually was I talked about my grandma's story a little bit, but after she left Germany in 1934, she moved to Italy. She was between Florence and Turin, and then after the war, she settled there. And it was actually where my dad was actually born in Florence. So when I first went through my passport research, I thought I was going to be eligible for my Italian citizenship, and I think I am. I just have to. It'd be very complicated with my grandma being readopted and just a ton of stuff. But so my main motivation there was I met my cousins and my aunt for the first time when I was in Italy, and I was able to see a lot of Europe. And specifically with Germany, I've been to Berlin, but that was before I was a citizen. So next up to Europe though is to go into Germany using that passport, and kind of I want to go to Munich where my grandma was born, and I want to go to Frankfurt where my grandpa was, and just my great grandpa was, and kind of make it a really meaningful trip, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I've not been to Munich. I've been to Frankfurt a couple of times. Once on a layover, the other time I just went past it on the train. And Berlin, I've been to. I was actually there recently, and Frankfurt is very nice. It's a very nice city. It's very built up. It's very developed. A lot of high-rise buildings that would be quite familiar to the American eye, I suppose. You know, it's quite an American-looking city, Frankfurt. A lot of skyscrapers, a lot of modern high-rise buildings, but it's genuinely a nice city. Absolutely. In Berlin, just curious, did you I mean, obviously you weren't a citizen then. Did you do all the touristy stuff in Berlin? You know, like go to all the checkpoints and go to the wall and everything. What was it you were doing in Berlin when you went there?
I mean, yeah, I was kind of like a typical American studying abroad. There was me and a couple of friends. So yes, we did the touristy stuff during the day. At night we went out. Feel like this might be every European country, but I know in Germany they're known for their beer. But that's all I was doing there for. I guess I've been to. I guess I want to say one thing that was one country that I went to that I probably would like to talk about that was really meaningful. This was sophomore year. The first time I went to Europe was I went to Poland, and that was kind of go to Auschwitz and the World War II history that happened there. That was a very meaningful trip that I knew that I had. My motivation there wasn't just to have fun and cross it off a bucket list. It was more like, hey, this is something I think I definitely should do as a Jewish person, and then I definitely recommend a lot of other people to do if they have an opportunity to. But,
Yeah, absolutely. And Poland, I've never been to Poland personally, but Poland is you always hear about how safe it is and how good it is. And obviously, it's in the Visegrad group, so I suppose I'll have easier access into it. But Poland, I mean, I've only heard good things about it so far, so that definitely needs to be another dot on the line on my map where I need to hit up soon. But yeah, honestly, like I think that's the one thing with Europe. I don't know if you found this, but the history in Europe is so rich. Like I've never been. I've been to the American continent and the European continent. As a Japanese citizen yourself and someone who has ancestral roots in Japan, what you said you were raised in the US, born and raised, but what culture do you think best suits you? Do you think it's the American culture, the German culture, or the Japanese culture?
Oh man, to be honest, that's a good question because I think I could see traits of all of them. Like, it's a lot of things that how my mom raised me would reflect on who I am, whether it's being timely, being education and family oriented, and then I guess Germany being really efficient. That's kind of like it's like an inside joke between me and my friends and my coworkers how efficient I try to be. But the U.S., I like American football. I like drinking beer. I like watching TV. I do like relaxing. So I feel like I see all three of them. I still would identify or give the edge to the U.S. one, but I definitely got a little bit of each. If that could, I know that's a full answer to your question, but that's how I would answer it.
No, actually, 100%. To be honest, I'm the same way. I'm not an American citizen, like I said, but I feel like I've taken some things from my time in the US, my time in Europe, my time in the UK. And to be honest, I feel like I've taken stuff from countries I've never even been to before, which is a bit weird. But with me, I feel like I feel like what I try to do at least is, all right, I'm a citizen of this country, PR in this country, what have you. But I want to take the best of each country. So let's say, for example, I don't know, Bhutan has something that I really like. All right, I'll adopt that. But I can also really like the lifestyle that they live in Cyprus on the island. So I feel like it's actually quite a good thing to have a mix of all these different cultures because you can take the best of it and you can form the best, if you will.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, man. That's another thing that's, I think, people who are blessed with, they've lived in different environments or come from multi-ethnical backgrounds, is that you kind of learn about the best traits of every kind of society or whatever. So gives you a better perspective and a lot of versatility with your skills and your mindset.
Absolutely. And just going on further, as an American citizen, one thing that you hear a lot about in this space, I haven't really touched upon it because I'm not too clued up on it, but with American citizenship, the word taxes is almost a natural thing that you imagine in your head whenever you hear that. As someone who is now a dual citizen, have you noticed any differences between in regards to paying taxes as an American since you now have foreign citizenships? Do you have to file more reports, or is it all the same as it was before?
It's all the same as it was before. The only thing because like I talked about at the beginning, it's always in the back of my mind to move to Europe or Germany or go to school there. So I looked into the taxes on that side. The only thing I'm aware of is I would only have to pay German taxes if I'm in the EU, working in the EU. Um, then with the US, I have to pay for that at all times. So as of now, with how my life works, I'm only worried about the U.S. If I was able to move to Germany, it would be Germany and the U.S. So that's the only, I guess, way. That's from my knowledge. That's what I'm aware of. I think that's correct, and I guess I'll worry about that more if I ever cross that bridge. But that's the only financial implications I've kind of read up upon.
Okay. And as someone who, just going back to when you said that you thought at the starting point that you'd qualify for Italian citizenship, let's say you just magically get all the right documents in place. Would you go towards that second EU passport, that fourth citizenship, or would you not go for it?
Um, yeah, the burden is. I know I was just talking about at the beginning how I was motivated to get all these passports. But this one's just really straight hard because when I was looking through these documents, I found my great grandma's like citizenship card. So I knew she remarried an Italian man. So I'm like, okay, she became a Italian citizen for sure. And therefore that means as long as I can find the legal documents that show that my great step grandpa adopted my grandma, therefore she's Italian. Um, I don't know. I just feel like it's just a lot of document finding that might be impossible. But yeah, I guess I would go for it. But you're right. That's really difficult. But yeah, fourth passport. I guess I'd love to have that. I know it's kind of the same as Germany because the power that comes with it. But once again, like the main reason I have these, is it reminds me of my family and the roots and their stories. So that would be my main motivation to hold on to physically have one.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, look, I mean, I think with anyone, I mean, if you have all the right documents in place, I don't see why no one would go for it. I mean, I mean, yes, it's expensive, it's a lot of time, but at the end of the day, it's like you said, it's a great thing to have. It reminds you of your family, probably
Like,
increases your freedom across the world. So,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Like we talked about, it's a lifetime investment. Like it's gonna go down to your kids and gonna stay within your family, forever. So
And as someone who it's interesting. You are actually the first person I've ever met who has triple citizenship, but has only really ever lived in one country. From what I can tell, you aren't someone who, from a kid, okay, from age 1 to 5, you lived here, then 5 to 10, you went to another country, then 10 to 15, you went to a third country. So it is interesting, actually. Or am I completely wrong in that?
No, I mean, I guess you're right. The people I know who have even just multiple citizenships have usually have some kind of living in a different country in their childhood. So, but you're right. I've only been in the U.S. Uh, I've been to a lot of countries and like to say that I've learned a lot from those times I visited those countries, but I can't say I've ever lived there because I know that's a different animal when you grew up and you made friends and you worked, you went to school in a completely different country. So.
And you just said you've been to a lot of countries. Are you a frequent, avid traveler across the world, or do you just do it every now and then?
No, I mean I try to do at least either I try to go to at least kind of like one major trip a year. For 2 weeks, I try to go to. Hopefully, in that 2 weeks, I go 1, 2, or 3 countries. Uh, in college, I was able to not only study abroad, but every kind of break, we had spring break, winter break, summer break, I would try to go somewhere. Gotta like maybe I can send you a photo after, but I do have like a magnet board of every city that I've been to, and it's pretty full. And I guess I mean that's it's not just me. I'm sure a lot of people people like to travel. They like to see new places. That's what I like to do for fun. That's what one of the main reasons why I save my money and um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I like to call myself a pretty frequent traveler. So
Okay, and if I mean, if you don't know the specific, that's fine. But ballpark figures, how many countries would you say you've been to so far?
um, probably 20 most. It's like probably like 15 or 16 European countries, and then uh, between Israel, Mexico, like 20, maybe 19 or 20.
Okay.
So
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are pretty well traveled then. Yeah, and especially since you're going across continents. That I've lived in multiple countries, and you're actually higher than me on that in regards to country number and continents too. So I applaud you for that. I'd love to hit Asia as well sometime soon. It's just look, flights to Mongolia aren't cheap from Europe, so I need to update my finances a bit before I can afford a trip to Ulaanbaatar. But I mean, yeah, absolutely. And look, I think every young person they like to travel, right? Because I feel like like what we were saying earlier about picking up the cultures. When you travel, even if you are, I don't know, where would you be? In Helsinki, Finland, for just 2 days, you'd probably learn something about the Finnish culture there. Maybe you'd pick up a bit of sisu for anyone watching who knows a thing or two about Finnish culture. Then you go to Tallinn, Estonia. You probably learn some things there. You probably adopt that with you. So I think traveling is perfect for taking in all the good parts of every culture.
for sure, man, like putting yourself in new environments and like meeting new people, like someone once told me the world is the best education. And yeah, it's like new circumstances, meeting new people, learning about their stories, trying new things. And even like usually when you travel either by yourself or just with like one or two other people, kind of forces you to be independent and be decisive. Even you talk about finances, like you got to learn how to budget and make sure everything goes according to plan. You got to follow the plan. So like you learn a lot about yourself and you kind of like forced in a situation to maybe use skills you don't use back home. So I 100% agree.
Yeah, and the one bad thing about traveling that I never hear anyone talk about is the aftermath of traveling. So let's say you go away to Australia for a year, right? All right, you come back. All right. Finally, you're off the plane. You're still on the Australian time zone mentally, but that's fine. Then after a few days, you're so bored because you're like, oh, I should be doing something. I should be going. I should be catching a train or getting a bus or surfing or
Yeah.
whatever it might be. That's the one downside I find with traveling. Every time I go somewhere, like like recently, I was like, oh, when I was in Europe, I was doing about 35,000 steps a day. Now I'm like, oh, where do I need to go? Like, I haven't got to catch a train or a plane or run away from someone. That's the one bad thing of
And
traveling. So
that's a great point. It's like, because usually I think most people when they're on vacation or traveling, they're like really motivated to get as much done as possible. So it's like you come back home and you're kind of like, it's a weird mindset. You're like, I'm kind of relaxed right now. You become a little antsy. You're just like, am I wasting my time? But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. My friends would agree with you. Um, it's just a kind of feeling that happens when you ride back home.
yeah, absolutely. And look, it's not necessarily a bad thing. So well, I don't know, there could be an argument saying that that constant adrenaline is good, but then again, how it impacts your heartbeat in the long run might be a different story. But yeah, honestly, and with traveling as well, what you said about how you learn so much about yourself is so true, and also you do learn to be resilient. I remember I was in a bit of a rough situation with some accommodation in a Western European country, and basically you learn a lot about yourself. You actually learn lessons on the way about how to avoid scams, what not to do, how to not stand out as a tourist so they don't try and trap you in some tourist traps. So I do actually agree with. I never heard that saying before, that the best teacher is the world, or the best way to learn is by going across the world. I forgot the exact quote, but I couldn't agree more. And I think, I mean, as an American yourself, the reputation you often hear sometimes is Americans don't really travel because they want to hit a tropical area, they go to Honolulu. They want to hit the mountains, they go to Colorado. They want to go skiing, all of that. They want to, I don't know, go to the desert. They go to, what's that state in between California and Texas?
Vegas.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one. Thanks. But honestly, I think traveling, even just to avoid the temperature, but just to see the cultures, I think is so important. Like what we're saying, like, yeah, you could go to Honolulu, but Okinawa has a similar climate, but you're probably going to learn so much more down
Yeah,
there.
I agree. There's a difference between maybe traveling and vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And not to be like, you can always do what you want with your money and your time, but like for me, I'd rather be in Japan, seeing new things, or be in Europe and see new buildings and meet somebody has a completely different lifestyle than be on a beach in Hawaii. Like that's what my preference is, and I think going along the lines of the world being a good education, like that's how you really learn, is when you're somewhere completely foreign, doing something completely brand new, learning something about history that you've never learned about. That's like, to me, that's the best way to not just vacation, but specifically travel.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, one thing that I found is, where was I? So about 4 months ago, I was in Hungary. I was on the east in a town that no one knows where it is, on the border with Slovakia, about half an hour drive from Slovakia. And it was boiling hot. It was super hot. It gets really hot in the summer. And anyway, I'm chilling there. And then I realized, okay, all the crap that I care about in the UK, I don't care about while I'm here. I didn't care about it while I was in Austria or Croatia or Slovenia or I don't know, Germany or any country. Do you find that whenever you're out of the United States or traveling, anything that is important to you back home isn't really the priority for you when you're abroad?
Oh yeah, for sure, man. I turn off notifications. I delete emails. Like the only people I might be in contact with are my closest friends and my parents. So it's like I don't want. There's always like things to think about when you're back home, or things are always on your mind, whether it's family or work minded. But if I'm paying all this money to be somewhere for 2 weeks, my time is limited. I'm gonna be fully mentally all in on those 2 weeks of travel. So, and it's a good feeling too. Just it's like a kind of like forget about the stress of daily life, and as you get to enjoy yourself and do something you're looking forward to doing. So,
Yeah. Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Now, Alex, one thing that I'd like to circle back to is obviously, as someone who's applied for multiple citizenships like yourself, there might be some people watching this who are interested in doing what you're doing. Maybe they also have Japanese ancestry or German ancestry or what have you. I want to get into more of the nitty gritty of the costs of applying. So, when you applied for German citizenship, obviously, EU passport, very high in demand. A lot of people went to do a lot of things in order to get it. What would you say was the final cost of applying for it to getting the passport?
okay. Shoot, I sure wish I wrote this down because I know it's a very important factor. Um, I do want to say this. I'll mostly talk about the Germany one because I started that one from scratch, like collecting documents all the way through the application. So I know some people who get this process, they lawyer up, and that's probably gonna be a couple of thousand. And to me, that's not necessary unless you have a very complex, weird situation. But for me, all the costs came from, contacting Munich to get my grandma's birth certificate sent over, making an ancestry.com account because there were some documents on there that actually helped me out. And then, of course, for me, my situation, driving to Houston, I guess it's gas money, and then paying for the passport. I hate to only give a ballpark answer, but it was probably just a couple $100. Like, that is a lot of money, but that's should be nothing to discourage you from going through this process. It was not an insane amount. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head how many like euros a German passport was, but it was like in the ballpark of the same cost as when I renew my U.S. passport or however much my Japanese passport was. So I hate not giving you a specific answer, but I guess to anyone listening, I promise you, it's just a couple $100. Like it's unless you're getting a lawyer, it's not that hard of a process, or it's not that financially challenging of a process.
To be honest, Alex, that's unbelievable. I mean, I didn't know. That's why I asked as well specifically. I'll just provide some context. You say a couple $100 is a lot of money. I agree. However, I know a guy here in the UK. I believe he's a European citizen, but I can't remember from which country specifically. He's lived in the UK for over 5 years, so he now has an equivalent to permanent residency, and now he's fulfilled the requirements, so he can apply for citizenship. The citizenship application costs £1,300, so $200 ballpark. Again, it really isn't that much.
Yeah, I mean, if I said like I think I ordered birth certificates. I ordered like my mom and my grandparents' like marriage certificate. I guess luckily my mom had my birth certificate and kind of like immediate family documents. So but yeah, I would if I told you $500 would be enough. I'm pretty sure that's what my situation was like. That was more than enough to cover everything. I guess once again, everyone's situation is different, but it's not going to be anything ridiculous. You know, it sounds like your friend had to naturalize. Maybe that's a different process.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, actually, yeah.
When you naturalize, they kind of try to make it more of an obstacle. I feel like countries try to make it more of a privilege. Like, oh, you're trying to be a part of us. Like, he's a big bill. So, and then in my case, it's like, oh, you were technically supposed to be a citizen, or you're trying to restore it, or you're eligible. Like, they try to make it more of a simpler, flowable process. But yeah.
Okay, well, going on to that, actually, I mean, I agree. I hadn't thought about it that way, but I do agree that perhaps if you are naturalizing and you have no roots to the country or what have you, they are going to put more obstacles in. How many obstacles were put in your way? Was it a very simple process? Let's ignore time, or did they come back to you and say, you're missing this document, you need to do this, you need to do that? What was it like?
Okay, so with the German passport and I guess the law, Article 116. So once upon a time, Article 116, let me quickly define it again. It was basically if you could prove that yourself or you're the direct descendants, or in my case, my grandma lost her citizenship between 1933 and 1945, aka when, Nazi Germany was happening, you're eligible to restore that citizenship. And once upon a time, Germany was actually kind of like criticized for it because it was a very kind of like a open-ended law, kind of like in a way it was like a sorry not sorry. They tried to have a law that showed they were trying to repent for what happened, but a lot of people were being denied. And once upon a time, I would have been denied at one point because they would have told me, hey, it was through your grandma, and back then like mothers weren't even able to pass on their citizenship. But then they amended the law where people like me were eligible. If you were adopted, you were eligible. If a couple other like kind of like what if scenarios made people eligible. So in this case, it was, I do like appreciate that Germany was very, except for like the 2 year long wait, which I was told it was gonna take 1 to 3 years to officially become a citizen. It was a pretty easy process. The consulate in Houston was communicative. Reddit pages were communicative. And they did come back to me saying they told me I was missing proof that she was a German citizen at one point because I did not have my grandma's passport. And even though I submitted her birth certificate, I don't know, it's kind of weird, but I was able to so to refute that, I sent my great grandpa's like military documents because because that proves that he was a citizen and therefore passed it down to my grandma. And I sent. And then when I went on ancestry.com, I found a document that stated that she was stateless, and that was like the exact document I needed, because I was arguing that my grandma became stateless because of Hitler's rule, and that when she left Germany, they revoked her citizen. And so they were very open. They were very communicative on email. Like, they responded in a day, like within 24 hours. But there was no crazy obstacles. They were very clear. Like, they were very clear today what you needed to provide, and I was luckily able to find all those documents and prove that lineage and prove I was eligible.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's good to hear, and I'm glad that the application obviously was successful.
With the Japanese one, that process. First of all, I'm thankful for my mom, because she speaks Japanese, because you're supposed to fill out that form in Japanese, and the form is in Japanese. In German, with this one, they have an English side, because they know a lot of foreigners are applying for this, because, in my case, it skipped a generation. But Japan, Japan was actually kind of amazing. I had to order something called a Koseki Tohon, which is basically a family registration document that says, hey, you are a Japanese citizen or Japanese national. I got that ordered. I guess my mom helped me fill out a document just with my basic information. Scheduled an appointment with the Japan consulate in Houston. If you were to already have your flight booked, they basically let you kind of they find time for you. You don't have to do this a couple months in advance or something, booking an appointment. And then my passport turnaround was I think it was 12 days. It was very impressive. And it had nothing to do with the urgency of me, hey, I'm traveling, I'm trying to get there in October. They always have a very quick 12-day turnaround. So that was very simple. There was, I want to make this clear to anyone who's a Japanese American or whatever, half Japanese. They know that I'm American, and they don't question hey, you're older than 22, or hey, you bending the rules. There's nothing discouraging. The only way it could be bad is if you become a celebrity like Naomi Osaka, who has to decide, or a politician, and it might have some kind of conflict of interest. But they were very helpful. And that process was great. So yeah.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm understanding then is Japan technically doesn't like to recognize dual nationality, but there's a loophole saying, okay, they're never going to follow you up on it until you become a household name where they have an incentive to follow you up on it. Am I getting that right?
Basically it. I think I sent you a YouTube link a little while ago, and it's the same YouTube link I posted on Reddit, and I've sent to some Japanese friends I have. But I think the law basically states they have the right to just be hey, you got to choose one, and put some pressure on you, but then kind of only do that to celebs. That's why I brought up Naomi Osaka. But the rule reads, the key verb, I'll remember this verb for the rest of my life, is you have to endeavor into getting rid of your foreign nationality. So if they question you at the airport, they're hey, you have 2 passports. I could simply say, in the U.S. case, it costs $10,000 to get rid of that passport. So I just financial obstacle, I can't pay for it yet. Or again, any other case, it's usually a ton of documents and paperwork. So that's it's not even, yes, loophole is the right word, but it's also just the rule. So, and then also that video also used the phrase don't ask, don't tell. They kind of just how it goes. They kind of don't care. Yeah. So, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then, just in regards to your best interest, if anyone is watching this who works for the Japanese government, neither he nor I are Japanese citizens or American citizens or anything. We both have one passport. So we're not German. We're not European at all. And yeah, but be sure to subscribe anyway, because we've done that for you. But yeah, actually, that is true. So I just want to put that out there for your best interest and everything, just to make sure that you don't get hassled if you ever go back if you ever go to, I don't know, Kyoto or something, and say, hey, yeah, we've seen you on this video here, you thought you could be slick with us, but we've got you on tape saying this stuff. But yeah, actually, to be fair, I mean, I'm just thinking about the $200 cost and the 12-day turnover is insane. I mean, most people wait months. I mean, you'd probably know this. Americans wait months to just get their passports renewed. There's a huge backlog. Japan, 12 days, unbelievable.
She invited me, like, it was crazy. She invited me to her wedding this summer. At first, I was denied the family visa. Oh, I should talk about this. I was like, okay, I'll just get a family visa, like, but I should be eligible for that. They told me no. It was actually, okay, my bad. It was actually the Japanese consulate that told me I can get my passport. It's okay. They denied my family visa, and I replied saying, hey, like, I'm 22, whatever. I'm not. They denied my family visa because they said you are a citizen. You need to get a passport. And I was like, I replied in an email saying, hey, like, I thought I got rid of my citizenship when I turned 22. She called me and explained that's a whole process to get rid of citizenship. Like, she was like, this is what my son does as a Japanese American, and this is what you're gonna do. You apply for your passport, it's gonna be okay. And then I was like, hey, but I'm trying to leave in October. And then she's like, like, this will be a very quick process. 12 days for the passport. We could, if you book your flight now and you show that you have a flight book, we can get you your meeting as soon as you want. So there was a guidance from them too. Yeah, I should talk about that whole story. It was just like, it was a quick change of events. It went from, wow, I can't go to Japan and see my cousin get married, to now I'm a whole citizen. So a whole citizen again. Yeah. I guess I already was, but now I'm a passport holder again, because I did have a passport growing up. I just never renewed it. I didn't renew it when I was like 19 because I was like, oh, I'm not going to be eligible for it anymore.